Hey, what is up, everybody? It's your boy AJTRIP, and welcome to Dash to Shoot, the weekly episode of the show where I talk about what's going on in the world of professional wrestling. Got another good one for you today, so let's go ahead and kick things started. So, the great Jim Cornette has been trending on Twitter a lot this week because of two things that he has said about AEW's beloved world champions, Jon Moxley and Kenny Omega. Let's start with Jon Moxley. This is from Sports Skeeter. They have the article. Let's go ahead and read it. Former WWE manager Jim Cornette has harshly criticized Jon Moxley over his recent match on AEW Dynamite. Moxley captured the interim AEW World Championship after defeating Hiroshi Tanahashi at AEW NJWP, New Japan World Order, World Wrestling, whatever, Forbidden Door. After the Star's first championship reign during the pandemic, many fans were hoping he'd get another title run in front of capacity, cut crowds. Moxley successfully defended the interim AEW World Championship during the latest episode of Dynamite. In light of the bout almost going overtime, Jim Cornette slammed Moxley's wrestling as well as the promotion. On the latest episode of the Jim Cornette Experience, the former WWE manager expressed his exhaustion for both Moxley's wrestling style and AEW itself. Quote, I will give this a chance just to see if Moxley does something different this time. So I paid attention. Under 1 minute and 15 seconds, they went to the floor. I just said, fuck it. Moxley's the worst wrestler in the world, and I tried to fast forward to the finish, but AEW can't manage the time. So they almost ran over, Cornette said. Cornette continued, pointing out that AEW should be careful with going over time as it could lead to the television executives at Warner Brothers Discovery getting frustrated. Quote, they can't manage their time. They got a bunch of unprofessional assholes that have never been trained properly. They just work indies and rec centers. So that's another way they can steam on them if they keep asking for more time on the fly. That's generally not well received, at least back at Master Control, he continued. Cornette has often been vocal about his criticism surrounding the purveyor of violence, which is likely his reaction to the match was so sour. Jon Moxley is set to face rising DDT star Konosuke Takeshita on tomorrow's Fyter Fest episode of Dynamite. Okay. So I guess that's it. Yeah. So I listened to both Cornette shows. I think he's the the only one really willing to be truthful about AEW. Everybody else has been paid by Tony Khan, whether it's likely or not, whether it has happened or it isn't. I'm going to go along with the joke and say that allegedly he has paid off the wrestling media, to just to promote his shit up and pull WWE's product down. When if you have good eyes, you can totally see that WWE is way better than AEW, and it's not even close. Dynamite and Rampage are the fourth and fifth best wrestling show on television, without question. Raw is one. Well, I should say maybe SmackDown is one, Raw is two, and NXT is three. NXT 2.0 is three, and then AEW Dynamite are way behind. That's just the case. And listen, and even with that, Jim Cornette doesn't like the stuff that WWE sees. In his view, AEW is probably a little bit better because it is bad. Well, I apologize for yawning, y'all. I didn't, I don't know, I just sleep and everything like that, so I apologize for whatever. So, gotta try to get a lot of sleep tomorrow, I guess. Um, but anyway, for his thing, AEW is bad, but WWE is boring, and bad is better than boring. And I've heard that on several other occasions when talking about WWE and this product. And again, I disagree. But I'm more willing to have that come from Jim Cornette. Jim Cornette say that. I would rather say, I would more rather say that's his opinion, and I disagree with his opinion on that, than let's just say some other people, you know, in the wrestling community who just think anything that they do, AEW does, and it knows is great, and anything WWE does is bad. I mean, you can't sit up and you can't sit up in here and tell me that Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins had 3 bad matches. You can't sit up there and tell me that. But there will be people on the internet and university that will tell you that those 3 matches were bad. They say that it was objectively those 3 matches were bad. And then they will sit up here and tell you that that Orange Cassidy versus Will Ospreay was match of the year. Fuck you. No, it wasn't. You're fucking paid shield by Tony Khan. Fuck you. No, it's not. The fuck out of here. But see, Cornette, he's more willing to say that that was bullshit, and it was. And I cannot wait to hear what he thinks about this past week's Dynamite, because there was apparently more shit. And I was looking on Twitter, and they was talking about the match between Moxley and that guy Tanashita. Within seconds, dude was busted open. So it's just it's just a bunch of garbage, and we'll talk about being busted open later. But so I think like this. I'm more willing to give Jim Cornette another things about his opinion, because I would agree with some of the stuff. And Jim Cornette, I think, and we'll probably get to Kenny Omega in a little bit of a second as well. But Jim Cornette, I think, when it comes to this, this is not some gimmick that people think it is. It's not him trying to stay relevant. It's not. He's giving his opinion. He's giving his full-throated opinion, and it's not the fact that and it's not the fact that it's anything that he's just trying to get his name. He's just giving his opinion, as he should. And listen, here's the thing. When it comes down to this, right? It was John Moxley. When he was Dean Ambrose and he was in WWE, I liked him, and I thought I thought he was, I thought he was funny. I thought he played that line very well of being being someone who was entertaining, on the mic, while also being entertaining in the ring. Cross that line of being a joke character to being just someone who could joke around with his opponents, right? And so I thought he was good at that. But what he's come to, when he's come to AEW, he hasn't even been either any point of that character. He's gone back to deathmatch John Moxley, and I think that's just he bleeds and cuts himself in every match he has, and it is not needed, and it's garbage. It really is. It is total garbage, absolute total garbage. And the matches that he does, and he's still trying to go and do stuff with the GCW bullshit. All of that is just garbage. And John Moxley's better than that. He could actually be a really good wrestler if he wanted to be, but what he doesn't want to be. What he wants to be is that he wants to do the outlaw mud show garbage wrestling bullshit. and that's what he wants his legacy to be. He doesn't want his legacy to be, you know, maybe a good wrestler or a good worker. He wants himself to be a great deathmatch guy, and that's I see it as sad because I think he's much better. I think he could probably be much better than that. He's a better wrestler than what he's showing. But Jim Cornette's right. As of right now, he is. He is. He's not. I'm gonna say he's the worst wrestler in the world, but he is. He's doing some shit that he should not be doing, and he doesn't need to do. So he was trending at one point for that. He was also trending for things he said about Kenny Omega, because Kenny Omega was on a Twitch channel and he was, talking about Jim Cornette, and he said some other things. He said some things about, Jim Cornette, and he and the Young Bucks think what Jim Cornette does is a gimmick. When he makes he thinks he doesn't believe what he's saying. And that he's saying that he's appealing to the worst lower of the people, right? So we got something right here, another article right here. This is from NoDQ.com. So this is right. So this is what this says. Article starts. As previously noted, former AEW World Champion Kenny Omega addressed longtime wrestling personality Jim Cornette during a Twitch live stream when he said the following, quote, "When he realized he could make money by delivering hateful speech, he backed himself into a corner. And now, if he wants to make rent and he wants to buy his fancy McDonald's double cheeseburger meal, he has to talk about the things that are going to get attention, and a lot of the time that's going to be yours truly," unquote. During his podcast, Cornette fired back at Omega. Quote, "You ruined a pastime, a hobby, an interest, and entertainment that a lot of us had, and some of us had professionally for years and years and decades, because it's just so silly and phony and stupid and illogical. And you've made wrestling something to be laughed at, and you admit that it should be fun, and we should all laugh and have fun at the silliness. Well, guess who's laughing now, Twinkle Toes? Because I've got 75 to 80% of the wrestling fans that loved wrestling and don't watch anymore because people like you were on my side. And you've got the remaining people that will eat the Elmer's glue and thank you for the ice cream, and the kind of people who like that kind of thing. So I think the roles are reversed here, because when you talk about me, I trend, you don't trend." Case in point, he did, and he trended again. So Kenny, you've been on TV in this country for 3 years. So if you want to compare relevance and star power and mainstream recognition, I've been on TV in this country for most of the time in the past 40 years, and you've been on TV in this country for 3 years. I spent more time in a fucking wrestling locker room than you've been alive. I think we actually did the math. We can probably verify that I've been in more locker rooms than at least time that he spent either awake or asleep. So I hate to break it to you, Harpo, but I ain't trying to be a star off of you. You're trying to do some damage control with me and discredit me because I have the platform to bring up what everybody can already see about you. You're an insufferable twat and a douchebag and a shitty wrestler is what you are. So embrace it. Embrace it. And because that's what your friends are too. They should embrace that as well. The problem is they act like such insufferable douchebags on television as heels, but they act like phony insufferable douchebags on TV. If they just act naturally and be the real insufferable douchebags, they might get some fucking heat. And that's from the Jim Cornette experience, another Jim Cornette experience. And once again, I will say that Jim Cornette is right. Listen, I heard about Kenny Omega, and I heard about the stuff that he was doing in New Japan, and I heard about the Young Bucks and things like that. And when I was watching AEW, I also saw matches with Kenny Omega, and let's also say this: Jim Cornette has a big thing with Kenny Omega because Kenny Omega wrestled a blow up doll. He wrestled a blow up doll, and you know he can't get over that. And I understand why, because I guess to wrestle a blow up doll is stupid. It is stupid. All the things that these people done is stupid. Whether you wrestled the Invisible Man, whether you 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 took the dick spot from Joey Ryan, whether you did dance routines in the middle of matches, you know, whatever, whatever it's been, um, you know, I'll be honest with you, I can't tell you what the difference is between the match that Sami Zayn and Johnny Knoxville had with all of their stupid shit, or Kenny Omega wrestling a Bulldog. Well, I guess I can tell you the difference. Sami Zayn and Johnny Knoxville were still making it real. Can trying to have something that was real. This was a lot of crazy, stuff in it. Although it's equally as stupid, they were still trying to make it like it could be real. There was some realism to that. Kenny Omega wrestling a blow up doll or wrestling a little girl, which we believe now is real. Um, him doing that is it is a stain on the wrestling business without question. There is that, and it is embarrassing. He shouldn't be embarrassed by it. A lot of people should be embarrassed by it. But should that mean that should follow him? Should that follow him to what he's doing now? I don't. I don't think so. I don't think so. But having said that, I also don't know if I also don't think that it should be forgotten. I was it. I don't. I also don't think it should be forgotten. And but yeah, it's Kenny Omega. Yeah, yeah. Johnny Russell, the blow doll. That's a little girl. Well, no, he's in AEW. But I think the thing that I go along with is that people announce him as like the best wrestler in the world, and that's but just because Dave Meltzer gave his matches broke the star rating. Well, no, they broke the star rating because Dave Meltzer is a dumbass and he's a fool, and that's why. Okay, so maybe not. Those matches were great with him and Okada. Fine, they're 5-star matches. They're not 6-star matches and 7-star matches. Fuck you, Dave, with your bullshit. No, that's not the case, and people are falling in line with that. They it's very interesting. They Meltzer is just as big is as big of a as big of a lightning rod as Jim Cornette is sometimes because they go to him to see his ratings and things like that. But God forbid if he doesn't like something that they like, you know, he's out of touch too. Oh, you like them? Oh, thank you, Dave. You see, he'll be the first one to say, "Oh, did he give Omega and Carter 7 stars?" But then again, the Johnny Knoxville Sami Zayn match, he didn't like that. Oh well, fuck you, Dave. You don't know nothing. So bunch of hypocrites. As for you know Kenny Omega and what Kenny Omega should do is that he should ignore Jim Cornette. Because that's what I would do if I was in Kenny Omega's shoes. I would just ignore Jim Cornette. I would not mention his name. I would not bring him up. If somebody brought him up to me, I would just say, no, it's okay. I'll pass. Next question. You know, I say thank you for the question, but I think I'll pass. Next question. You know, do that. Move on. Don't talk about him. because it's not going to go well for Kenny Omega. Anytime Kenny Omega brings up Jim Cornette's name, Jim Cornette eviscerates him, verbally eviscerates him, and and Kenny Omega never has a leg to stand on in anything in any type of back and forth with him. So I would just think it would probably just be best for Kenny Omega. I don't think John Moxley has never said a word about Jim Cornette, and he shouldn't, because he'll never win. He'll never win, and Kenny Omega will never win. Very few people ever wins versus Jim Cornette, because he's got that gift of gab where he can verbally eviscerate you, and you can't do that with Jim. So something strange happened last weekend. Um, in an event the WWE was holding, where it was apparently the triple threat match between Natalya and Ronda Rousey and Liv Morgan. Well, Natalya she took the oblivion from Liv Morgan, but then no sold it after the match. A lot of interesting thing to type in on Twitter that is a bunch of hubbub. Um, so we had a clarification here on Natalya's no sale. It's actually from Dave Meltzer, so take that as you will from a grain of salt. But here is the article from Wrestling Inc. by Ross Berman. Clarification on Natalya's no sale from WWE live event. Quote, Natalya just got up, unquote. Dave Meltzer was as surprised as anyone when he saw the footage of Natalya's no-selling Liv Morgan's Oblivion finishing move at a recent house show in Sacramento, California. It was a surprise, Meltzer continued on this week's Wrestling Observer Radio, especially from her. Natalya and Morgan were wrestling in a triple threat match that also involved Ronda Rousey. After taking the Oblivion finisher in the pinfall, Natalya immediately got to her knees, pointed at Morgan, said some undisclosed words, then left the ring. Meltzer said planned the two completed the planned finish for the match, but there was an issue. Quote, it had nothing to do with Liv Morgan at all, Meltzer said, noting that the SmackDown Women's Champion and Natalya are both getting heat over the confusing moment. I know Natalya's getting heat. I think Liv Morgan's getting heat over it. According to Meltzer, Natalya was mad, but the incident didn't stem from any sort of bad blood between the two women, though he admitted that after watching the clip, that was the conclusion you were to come to. Meltzer claims none of the reports he received from the Sacramento show highlighted anything being off in the finish of the match. It wasn't like most of the crowd reacted to it anyway or thought it was unusual, but I did see the clip and it was a bit unusual. She did just get up and leave. Meltzer is uncertain of what the situation was between the two women, but unequivocally states that there was a situation. Things were reported smooth over that night behind closed doors. It's over and done with, Meltzer said, but it did happen. Yeah. And, things like this happen. There are something could have happened. It may not have necessarily been the finish. Something could have happened in the match. Maybe something could have done something. Maybe maybe Liv Morgan said something that she wasn't supposed to do. Normally in a certain match, kind of like that, the veteran usually calls it, and usually the veteran is the heel. So maybe Natalya called for something, and and Liv Morgan just went, didn't go for it, or something like that, or who knows? Who knows? We probably won't get the real story of what happened, or if we do get it, we'll get it at a later date. But it says to be nothing happening. And in fact, later on tonight on SmackDown, there's going to be a championship contenders match between the two. So, um, I think this is probably just it's just a blip in the road. Wrestlers do this, wrestlers have this, and this is what this is. I will say this for anybody who is trying to compare this to the Sasha Banks and Naomi stuff. You're an idiot if you do. Walking out on your company, a company that you signed a contract to wrestle for, to do for walking out on the company and your boss is a lot worse than no selling the finish and walking out like that. Now, while that is also unprofessional, at least you did business. At least you did business. It's stupid. It's unprofessional. And Natalia knows better. But at least you did business. Naomi and Sasha didn't even do business. They didn't even do business. They didn't want. They didn't want to do business. So they walked out, and that's why they're more than likely not coming back. Not coming back at all. So yeah, I think when it comes to this, while it's unprofessional and stupid and it's a bad look for Natty, this is a blip on the radar. I think for her, and for both maybe Liv Morgan, maybe because if Liv Morgan's getting heat, she may have done something as well. So this is a blip on the radar for both. I don't expect anything like this from happening. I know Liv Morgan is wrestling Ronda Rousey. I don't think that you know they're gonna put on that match. I think the Charlotte Flair comes back and ends, and attacks them both. But I think it's I don't think Liv Morgan loses the title that quickly just yet. So and doesn't lose the title because of this. Because there have been some reports that Liv Morgan she's become a draw. She's become a draw. She's getting good ratings, from her YouTube stuff. She's selling merchandise, and she's getting pops. Every city is like she gets a louder pop. So I think she's becoming one of the faces of their company. So um, I don't think this is gonna stop that. It's gonna stop her push. So, but it does when you wish it wouldn't have happened. So yesterday there was a big uproar on online. I was looking at the trending topics on Twitter. And one of the Twitters was TV14. I was like, TV14? And I thought it may have been about wrestling, but you never knew. You never knew because So I checked to see what it was, and yes, it was about wrestling. And Andrew Zarin had a report. Andrew Zarin from the Mac Men podcast. He had a report that this upcoming Monday Night Raw, we're going to be TV14, and that the PG era Raw is going to be over. It said fans stirring. It said fans wondering about what would happen and thinking that it was going to be great. You even had one on Twitter account saying that they wanted the blood back, and they had pictures of John Cena and Roman Reigns and Austin and one other person I can't remember who it was. With the crimson mask and everything like that. And I quote tweeted and saying, if WWE's going back to TV14, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to do blood. All it means is it may just mean that they may have more adults in sexual situations. But I doubt they're going to bring back blood. Fact, I hope not. As much as there are times in which I think that blood could be useful, I don't want it back because one of the criticisms I would have WWE is that they don't know how to do things in moderation. They don't know. They don't know how to do things in moderation. They just can't have maybe one or two matches a year that might involve blood. They would be what AEW is doing, where every week somebody's bleeding out of their and they're bleeding, not just bleeding, but they're just gushing it. It's just spurting out of their heads and everything like that. Um, so, so that was that. So that was interesting. But then a report came out later that night that and from Andrew Zirin again, where it stated that maybe it's actually not happening. So this is actually again from Wrestling Inc. from Matthew Collins. Let's go ahead and let's read this. WWE fans were buzzing earlier today after word that the PG era of Raw will end soon. Now, the initial source of that news is walking back part of his report. WWE Raw won't be going to TV 14 on July 18th, but is still in consideration for a later date, Andrew Zarian of the Mat Men podcast tweeted Thursday night. Zarian also elaborated on the source of his initial report and his understanding of what is happening behind the scenes involving WWE and the USA Network. He says there was a memo circulating within USA Network Thursday morning regarding the rating from Raw changing to TV 14 on July 18th. However, Zarian wrote Thursday night that the memo was apparently sent out prematurely and the date for the switch has not been finalized. Zarian deleted his initial tweet on the matter, explaining that he did not want inaccurate information being spread further. There's been no reported change planned for the rating for SmackDown. Presumably, it will remain TVPG. SmackDown has aired on the Fox network in the United States since October 29. WWE's third program, NXT, also carries a TVPG rating and also airs on the USA Network. The PG era of Raw began on June 22, 2008. WWE adjusted its on-air product to adopt a more family-friendly approach. Blood, cursing, and other more salacious aspects of its past programming were pushed aside in a bid to attract more mainstream advertisers. The change coincided with Linda McMahon's transition from her role with WWE to a political career. McMahon lost two senatorial campaigns in 2020 and 2012, both times running in Connecticut, losing to Senators Richard Blumenthal and Chris Murphy, respectively. McMahon later served, Jesus Christ, I just can't speak. McMahon later served as the head of the Small Business Administration under former President and WWE Hall of Famer Donald Trump administration. She held the post from 2016 until she stepped down in 2019. Okay, so, and then I was watching the Russell Talk podcast earlier, and they talked about genre sap. Had a thing that where the 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 rating has nothing to do with WWE. The rating comes from USA. So in theory, USA could rate the programming TV 14, and WWE could still do it's the way it does. While also vice versa, if the USA can rate the program TV PG, and the WWE could also go beyond that as well. They could also do some of the, if they wanted to, they could do more of the language. They could do more of the salacious attempts. They could do some more of the, they could do blood if they wanted to, and still be within their TV PG range. So here's my thought on that. There's a part of me that wants WWE to stay TV PG, and it's for no other reason but just to piss off the people who want TV 14, right? Just for the people who think that WWE going to TVPG is, has ruined the product. It's made WWE lesser of a thing, which is just not the case. WWE is the Attitude Era and parts of the ruthless aggression era are statements in time when the business just was at a different time than it is right now. And And listen, you were talking about it, and I was watching on TikTok one of John Cena's raps when John Cena and The Rock were going at each other. I was watching one of the John Cena's raps, and there are so many gay, being gay references into that you can do that now because you got a bunch of gay people on the roster, and for one, and two, being gay isn't bad. Being gay isn't bad, but you always take it like one, you know. At least that's how it was done now. You know, I chastised somebody on Twitter the other day when I was, talking about Big Brother. Somebody called one of the dudes gay, and I was like, "You're like really, you're going to say that that dude is gay when we, and you're saying this because you don't like the way he's acting. You don't like the way that he's, treating one of the house guests. But then you say, and you're doing the exact same thing that he's doing, that you're accusing him of doing in the house guest. Except you're doing it even worse, right? You're calling him, gay. When you probably mean that he's stupid or he's an idiot or something like that. But instead of that, you say he's gay. Yeah, and you can't do that now. Now, I think there's still something on occasion when they do WWE does the the kind of gay slights, and those aren't necessarily. I don't think those are necessarily cool. Um, I can't think of one at the moment, but I'm sure we've seen it over the past 4 or 5 years when we probably have probably gone away from that the most, started to really move away from that type of language. But it's just it's ridiculous. So, um, but but I would like to see that just so that I don't want them to do that so that they could you know tell people who want them to do it to no. You watch our product the way we watch it. We're still putting out good product just because we don't bleed anymore and we don't curse anymore or our girls don't you know do bra and panties matches anymore. It doesn't mean that our stuff is good. And I think it's a good percentage of the people out there who don't like WWE anymore. That's exactly the reason why. Because they're not bleeding every week. They're not, you know, the girls aren't in skimpy outfits wrestling anymore, or at least the skimpy outfits aren't. I shouldn't say skimpy outfits because they do wrestle some. They still are wrestling in skimpy outfits, but it's wrestling gear now. But they're not wrestling in bra and panties anymore, and they don't like that. So, but then there's another part of me that wants them to do. They want them to go to TV 14, but they don't change a damn thing. Don't change a damn thing. And I guarantee you, oh, it's been so much better since it's been TV 14. They're doing the same stuff they've been doing in TV PG. So I want you to just show them just how much of a hypocrite they are. But so we will see. We will see what happens. Again, SmackDown is tonight. We got Raw on Monday. We'll see if there are any changes. TV PG, TV 14. I'm gonna try to remember to look for them. We'll see if it happens, and we'll see if anywhere they're down in the future if any of these things do go to TV 14. So our main topic this week it is the return of Biography WWE Legends and a new show WWE Rivals airing on A&E. So and there's also another show that comes on after that called Smack Talk, but there's no necessarily need for anybody go on through that. At least in my opinion. Um, it's kind of like a post game show. Talking about the shows that we just watched beforehand. But there were two shows. Like I said, there's a new show, The Rivals, and then there's the second season of the Biography WWE Legends. And the first show was on The Undertaker, and obviously, when it comes to a lot of these things, you're gonna hear if you're especially a long time fan, you probably watch other documentaries and things like this, and especially over the past 3 years when the Undertaker he's really come down. Especially over the last 3 years, the Undertaker has been more open, starting with the documentary um, on the network, the last ride, and there's other things he has done and come out, and he's been more open and now speaking, you know, about his life and about the things that have gone on. And this one, if you watch any of those over the last 3 years, a lot of the same stories were told, but it's still so interesting when you think about it, and it's everything from him working. You get a lot of his older stuff when you talk about when he was working and what he was doing, and he went down to Memphis and he beat Lawler for the championship in Memphis. Wow, we never heard that. We never heard that story. Or was it Lawler or was it somebody else? I don't know who it was, but he won the championship down in Memphis, and we've heard some stories, and the highlight of it was his mother. His mother was good. Every now and then they would go back to him. They filmed him and send down talking to his mother. His mother was just absolutely fun. Stole the absolute show. Always making jokes about him and what he did. His mother was a firecracker, so incredible. And we love the story. We heard it. I don't know. I can't remember. I think it was on one of the Austin Broken Skull sessions where he told the story about Sid messing with Undertaker, his mother was in the front row, and Sid started japping at his mother, and his mother tried to come over the ring, tried to hit the ring as like a fan. So we heard a lot of the stories we had heard, and some of the, but they're still crazy, and they're still great to go back and watch those and talk about those, and we talk about all of the iterations of the Undertaker, the American Badass, and then the original Undertaker and things like that. I love the story when we first heard uh, when we first heard. I think we may first heard it in the Last Ride documentary, or no, I just think it was Broken Skull Sessions, the first one, where he talked about that he's you know the book has said he was never going to make it money, and this was the first time he mentioned who it was. It's Ole Anderson. Ole Anderson told him that nobody was ever going to pay him to make money, so he left there, and Paul Heyman, who was managing Undertaker at the time, he kind of he called up Bruce Pritchard and told him about Undertaker's contract. So they, did the whole thing, sat down with him. I don't think we had heard that part before. They talked about it, and around the same time when they were promoting the egg, and Undertaker was worried that he was gonna be Eggman, and or they were gonna shave his head, and he was gonna be like Egghead from the '60s Batman TV show. Oh, and this is great stuff. But then they told him that he could be the Undertaker, and he was so excited to be it, and things like that from history. So that good. And they're gonna do a lot of ones this year. They're doing next week. This coming Sunday's Goldberg. There's a lot of other ones coming as well. So some really great things this season. People aren't gonna like the Bella Twins because they don't like the Bella Twins for some reason. But I think the Bella Twins could be a good story. And then they're also gonna do a rivals between her and Stephanie McMahon. Now I'm not sure necessarily why they're going to do that, but again, I'm gonna wait and see on the rivals. So when you talk about rivals, the first episode was on Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, and you want to talk about a story that's been told over and over again. We know about the history of Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels. Nothing that was told on this show was anything that you hadn't heard in the last 20 years. Nothing. Nothing that you heard is not the same stuff that you've heard. So it's this Montreal screw job. This the fact. The one thing that they didn't do is that they showed the clip. Bret Hart claims that after during the Iron Man match, WrestleMania 12. that Bret Hart claims that Shawn Michaels said, "Tell that motherfucker to get the hell out of my ring." With in some form or fashion. And they had the clip, and you can see that, and they have it put down on the bottom of the screen. He does tell Earl Hebner, tell him to get the hell out of my ring, or tell him to get his ass out of my ring. Some to that sort of. I can't remember what he exactly said, but he said something like that. So we finally see that. So that does happen. Shawn claims that he doesn't know. And here's what I say. I'm not going to be one to say that I think Shawn Michaels has selective memory. I don't think that is what it is. Uh, Shawn Michaels was on a lot of shit back then, a lot of drugs, so he may not necessarily remember a lot of things. But and for the most part, I think Shawn Michaels, for the most part, has pretty much kind of owned up to all of his shit that he's done, all the shit that he has done. He's unowned to it. And even then, and even he said, and even if there's something that he doesn't remember doing or saying, he doesn't say that he didn't do it. He says, I don't remember saying that, but I very well could have said it because I was addicted back then. So, um, it just is what it is, and we got that, and TJ Wilson, who is the husband of Natalia, and been a part of the Hart family for a long time. Trained was the last person to be trained in the Hart Dungeon, the original Hart Dungeon. TJ and now they have a mini dungeon now that they train, and it's pretty much I think they pretty much just train like WWE people there. In fact, we talked about Liv Morgan. I think Liv Morgan trained with Natalia for a whole year at the dungeon. So, but that's neither here nor there. And TJ seems to claim that what happened after WrestleMania 12 was not a work. It was not a shoot. It was not a work. It was a shoot. Brett was legitimately upset that he had to drop the title to Shawn Michaels, and that those months that he took off television, he did live events here and there, but those months that he took off television were, in fact, because that he had to drop the title to Shawn Michaels, and he didn't like the fact that he was doing it, and he did not like the fact the way Shawn Michaels, portrayed himself as champion over that time. And that's why he talked about, and we just talked about in the last segment, we're talking about TV 14, the sort of things of questioning the man's sexuality, and they do the clip when they talk about Shawn Michaels posing for girly magazines, and Shawn Michaels. This was the night after WrestleMania 13, where he talks about, you had to look through those girly magazines to know I was in them, didn't you? And so it's, yeah, so it's, all of those things. We brought up the Sunny Days comments, and we brought that up, and so many other things. But it does come back to the fact that after years and years and years, they wanted to, end it, and they wanted to, they both wanted to end it. And Sean was so scared at one point not to do so, and Britt really wanted it, and then they finally, even at one point, I think TJ says that Sean told TJ that he wanted to go to Calgary, ring his doorbell, and just let whatever happens happens. If Bret Hart he did to him what he did to Vince, fine, as long as they could talk afterwards. Uh, but that didn't the case. Then Bret Hart he negotiated that that thing to appear on Monday Night Raw that like in the beginning of 2008, I think it was. Yeah, 2008, 2009, maybe. No, it wasn't two. I mean, it was 2009. Yeah, I think maybe 2000. No, 2010. I think it had been January 2010 because 2009 would have been WrestleMania 25. 2010 was the year Michaels retired. So then the next year, 2011 was the next year 2011 was WrestleMania 27. 2012 was WrestleMania. It was WrestleMania 28, and then 2013 was WrestleMania 29. 2014 was WrestleMania 30. So yeah, that's what it was. But it's so they are definitely trying to do what's become together, and they're not best friends as they said, but they're not best friends. But it's also not something where it's Bret Hart sends Shawn Michaels birthday texts and happy anniversary texts and things like that, and it got to a point to where they can just be together. And I think that's a great story. I love the way that story has come together. Um, and I think it is truly what people and it talked about. And I think the one thing that hit me was that Bret Hart says is that they just had so much shit. If they could have get over their shit with each other, it could have been it could have been matched because they were so good together that they could have wrestled one one time for the rest of the year. And if you think about it, you never know. You never know what happens. Maybe Shawn doesn't get injured, but however, you also think of that. Maybe Shawn doesn't change. Maybe Shawn doesn't change. So you also have to think about that because everything had to happen for a reason. Everything needed to happen for a reason. To this point, Bret Hart doesn't. He doesn't get hit in the head by Goldberg, and he doesn't have that stroke. So maybe that, and I think that also changed for Bret too. Having that stroke changed for Bret. So there's a lot of things with these two that have happened that have made them who they are now. And you have to wonder if things didn't go back around, would it be different now? Would they still be buddies and still be the way they are now, or would it be even worse where they would be at their throats, where they'd be calling for it, they calling each other names at their mouth, and Shawn Michaels would still be saying, Brett, had sunny days and things like that. So you never know, but even though with all of that and it's stuff that we've seen before, Rivals was incredible. And I can't wait to see some of the other ones that they're going to do. I think they're going to do Eddie and Ray. I think they're going to do Edge and Orton, Edge and Cena. I think it is. And I think a few others. Again, like I mentioned earlier, they're going to do Stephanie and Nikki, and no Nikki, but Brie Bella. Which again, I don't know why. I can understand why you do the Bella twins as the WWE legends, but I don't know why you would do Stephanie versus Brie Bella. Just are you doing that because Brie has a following because of Total Bellas? Are you doing it because Stephanie needs something to have done to her? Because she was on the Evil show that was on Peacock, which I think you could do for that, but I don't necessarily know. So, but both shows were great. I think both seasons are going to be interesting. The after show Smack Talk was all right, but you could take it or leave it with that. But the most important part are the biography show, and then the rival show. Both great. I encourage everybody to watch. If you hadn't catch the first two shows, catch them on replays. I'm sure you can find it on demand. Or I'm sure they're probably going to replay them on Sunday before the other ones happen, before the new episodes happen. All right, y'all. That is it for this week's episode of That's a Shoot. Um, I'm gonna be honest. Not sure if there's gonna be one next week, but definitely. But if there is one, you make sure to be right here. Click the notification bell so that you can find out if there is one. But there definitely will be one on. But it will be on early. It will be Saturday, July 30th, which is SummerSlam, the day of SummerSlam. So early, in that afternoon, we get a video of my predictions for SummerSlam. So make sure you're here for that. Still, again, hit the notification bell so that you know when that video pops out, you will get it. But if you have any comments on what happened on this episode, I talked about Jim Cornette and him eviscerating Moxley and Omega, or Raw possibly going to TV 14 in the future, or Natalia's weird, strange event that happened over the weekend at a live event in Sacramento. Or, of course, did you watch the biography of Undertaker and the rivals of Bret vs. Shawn? Let me know down in the comment section. Like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, and as always, thank you guys so much for watching. This is your boy, AJTRIP, signing off. As always, be good to each other, y'all. Be careful out there. And I am out.